Hi everyone, our group is Clueless, and today our topic is why Apple choose to outsource their hardware products but not software. These are our group members, myself Janahan, Mansoor, Ramkumar and Huili. So what is outsourcing? To put it simple, using external resources to complete internal tasks. Those tasks can be outsourced to someone who operates close or someone in a different part of the world. As long as the vendor have the capacity to do the task and both parties have a mutual agreement, this can be done. As we all know, there are a number of benefits for outsourcing a particular set of tasks or even one task, and different benefits could have different priority for different companies. Today our topic is based on Apple. Apple is a well-known technology company, especially for their mobile devices. Currently, Apple's high sale in products such as iPhone, iPad and MacBook are not actually manufactured by Apple. Most of their hardware manufacturing and assembling tasks are outsourced. Our topic today is to discuss why Apple outsourced its hardware manufacturing while the software being designed and developed internally. Throughout this presentation, we will break down the question into two parts. The first one will cover why hardware production is outsourced, and the next will discuss why software is not outsourced, with some comparison as well. Once the devices are designed, the final product needs to be produced in high volume, depends on the public demand. This production process involves many different third-party companies and suppliers. This picture shows a high-level view of Apple's supply chain, but only the first two are what we're interested in, the sourcing and manufacturing. In sourcing, they find required components to produce the final products from different parts of the world, and final assembly takes place in China according to Apple's requirement. It's hard to say to whom the final assembly is outsourced at the moment, but according to a recent online article by the Wall Street Journal, it says Foxconn is the assembler for Apple. I would like to add that Foxconn is the world's biggest contract electronic manufacturer, and apart from that, they also serve large clients like HP, Dell, Nokia, Sony, and many others. So from this point, Mansoor will continue the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Janan. Hi, everyone. Firstly, I will talk about Apple main outsourcing partners. These companies are Foxconn, Samsung, TSMC, and LG. Because of its partnership with Apple, now Foxconn is the world's largest electronics contractor. These companies are producing different parts. For example, LG makes LCD panels, Samsung produces batteries and chipset, TSMC manufactures DRAM and flash memory. Other parts are supplied from Taiwan and Korea. So, why Apple is outsourcing its hardware? There were 230 million iPhones sold in 2015, which means huge number of production is needed. Lots of workload is involved in hardware manufacturing. These reasons are less production costs to America. Assembly in China cost is only 1.8% of the actual cost of the iPhone. Work condition. Work shift in China is longer than America. For example, Chinese workers can work for 12 hours per day. Moreover, Chinese factories are now bigger and agile. In addition, operate close to supplier. Most of hardware suppliers now in Asia. Hiring workforce is easy and fast. In Asia, now China has qualified engineers than the USA. This figure shows the iPhone value distribution. As you can see, Chinese labor costs represent 1.8% of the actual cost of the iPhone, while Apple profit is about 58%. The next slide will be presented by Ram Kumar.
So far, we have discussed about the manufacturing of physical or the hardware products of Apple that are outsourced and the reasons for outsourcing them along with their pros and cons. Apple signs all of its products as designed in California, but the phrase becomes complete only by saying designed in California, manufactured in China, for which we have seen so much in the previous slides. Now we will be moving on to the software side that are being designed and developed by Apple in their hometown, United States of America, and we will see why, where, and what software components are designed by the in-house employees. The first thing is the core concept design and the development plan for all the Apple products, and they are developed at the Apple campus, which is the headquarters of Apple located in Cupertino, a massive building called One Infinity Loop. The iOS versions or the operating system versions and the first party applications for various products of Apple are also developed in the same building. The internal processors or the chipsets, which are the brain of the iOS, are designed by Apple and developed by Samsung and TSMC. Controller chips, which are mainly used for memory controlling USB connectivity, are developed at Broadcom Corporation, located at California. Audio chips are being developed by the famous semiconductor supplier Cirrus Logic, located in Texas. The radio frequency components are developed by Triquine Semiconductors based in Oregon. Thus, Apple finds all the leading developers and provides them the necessary tasks, and all of these takes place in the home country itself. Is that all? So, does that mean Apple doesn't outsource their software products? One cannot answer this question as a yes straight away. Software design is also outsourced to a certain extent, but there are these are done as a secretive process because of the public scrutiny in US trying to create more jobs in their home country and stop moving of jobs outside. In the following section, we will dive deep into the benefits of developing the software in-house and the risks or the problems faced if they are outsourced. The core design, the core concept design and development. So, is that all? So, does that mean Apple doesn't outsource their software products? One cannot answer this question as yes straight away. Software design is also outsourced to a certain extent, but these are done as a secretive process because of the public scrutiny in US trying to create more jobs in their home country and stop the moving of jobs outside. In the following sections, we will dive deep into the benefits of developing the software in-house and the risks or the problems faced if they are outsourced.
Thanks, my friend Ram. I'm Ian. Now I will introduce the reasons that why Apple only outsourced this hardware, not software. I think it's three reasons. The first one is fit Apple's business model. The second is maintain the content of supply chain. And the last reason is create a closed ecosystem. Apple's software are well renowned for its user-friendliness. When the software development team and the client have great understanding, it makes development produce much better output, as Apple know what their customers need and what the requirements their customers want. Although Apple makes extremely good hardware, but that's because they believe they're the only ones who can make hardware worthy to run their software. Steve Jobs says, people who are serious about great software need to also be serious about great hardware. This is why, at its core, Apple is a software company that makes specific hardware decisions in order to maximize the value of their softwares. A key factor of the Apple business model is ensuring that Apple content can only be played on Apple devices. That means Apple will lock their customers in its closed ecosystem, which is based on their software. And this helps Apple maintain digital download market share and drives sales volume for profitable hardware devices. Apple maintains this multiple channel platform integration through legal and technological means and extends this control to all partners in the supply chain, including suppliers and manufacturers. This slide is maintaining content supply chain. Content is crucial because it inscribes profitability to hardware devices and creates an Apple ecosystem. The first element of the content supply chain is the in-house production of the operating system and software for Apple products. For example, by 2005, the products based on OS X. OS X is an operating system that runs on Mac computers, accounting for nearly half of Apple's profits. By 2010, OS X products made up 22% of total margin, whereas Apple's new iOS was responsible for about 70% of Apple's gross profits, and by 2010, 92% of Apple's profits were generated from platform-based products. All of those products are based on software that's designed by Apple itself. In this slide, I will introduce the iTunes and the digital asset management of Apple. iTunes is one of the most strategic elements of the Apple system. Apple has fundamentally understood that it is not the one who owns the content who wins in the future, but Apple holds the keys to the content. Apple announced at their event on September 9, 2009, that they have the credit card account information of more than 100 million consumers through iTunes. That makes Apple becomes one of the biggest digital retailers. The consumer behaviors would tell us that once a consumer trusts the brand enough to set up an account and give credit card information on the assumption of future purchase, the consumer will consider that retail outlet first in making purchase. As mentioned before, Apple wants to lock their customers in its closed ecosystem, which is based on their softwares. We can look at the picture in this slide. It's about Apple's hardware products and relations between them, and these relations are based on software design. In 2013, Apple CEO Tim Cook said that Apple can be distinguished from other companies due to the company's expertise in software, hardware, and services. He said, Apple has the ability on all three spheres to innovate like crazy and cause magic. People are trying desperately to catch up, and their funding is not easy to do. The ecosystem has given Apple a competitive advantage as it owns chip manufacturers, controls manufacturing, and software design. Indeed, the key factor in this ecosystem is software, which follows extremely strict standards. Based on this, the company has more control of its value chain. The software designed by Apple itself can work well with Apple's devices and sync easily so that preferences and media can be copied or shared with multiple devices without much effort. For example, a study by research firm GFK in 2011 said that 84% of iPhone owners plan to purchase another Apple when they replace their cell phone, with many smartphone users saying that the ecosystem of a mobile OS is a determining factor when upgrading. The study showed that over 17% of consumers felt features and seamless access to content are major factors for continuing with their current mobile OS, so the push for the value-added ecosystem is becoming a great priority for the industry. In the last part, I will simply introduce some problems relating to software outsourcing. The first one is communication gap. Developers working in different time zones in different countries can limit communication times, which may lead to unnecessary overhead. Also, communicating with people in different countries can lead to miscommunications and delayed projects. Next problem is design engineering style different. Specialists should be native to your platform so they understand the market's design. It's easier for a developer to be effective if their experience resides in the country you work in. Finally, the problem is more hand-holding. More feedback loops required with technical talent in maturing markets. Lots of back and forth can lead to miscommunication, especially if you haven't laid out strong project guidelines and documentation. Okay, now it's Jenna's turn. He will conclude our presentation.
Thanks, Willie. Now to conclude, outsourcing hardware has many cost advantages and helps to meet required productivity. Also, it doesn't require much skills except for being able to repeat the same tasks again and again for a certain period of time in each shift, just like other factory level jobs. And in software, no matter how many devices they produce, the software is the same that needs installation in each device. And developing software by Apple itself helps to maintain intended level of quality. However, we think that there are weaker sides in Apple's hardware outsourcing. There is no contract electronic manufacturer which can provide the same service in same speed with similar cost. So that leaves Apple no option but to stay with Foxconn. To maintain a good reputation in the market, Apple needs to keep an eye on Foxconn's work environment. Even though Apple is not the only client to Foxconn, most news media involve Apple's name when something is fishy inside Foxconn. As a proof, we would like to conclude this presentation with a short video. I hope you liked our presentation. Thanks.
This is where your iPhone 6 comes from. These are the first secret pictures from inside the factories that produce for Apple. An exhausted workforce, people sleeping on their breaks, others falling asleep as they work.
你们睡觉，我知道有人睡觉喜欢往字句上靠，你们不要睡在字句上，那东西有电的，万一漏电了你就完了。
In 2010, after 14 workers killed themselves at another factory producing iPhones, Apple published promises to protect workers. So have things changed? Our undercover reporters got jobs through agencies, and within minutes, Apple's rules were broken. Everyone in China needs to carry an ID card. Our workers' card has been taken.
They said they needed to see my ID. When they got it, they didn't return it to me. I demanded that they return it. I felt helpless.
They came to work at Pegatron, where iPhones and iPads are assembled. They have to pass a crucial health and safety exam. They will. The answers are chanted out. And they're offered a choice whether they want to work nights or do work standing up. But there's no choice.
He said if you don't do what the company asks you to do, what is the point of employing you here?
Apple told us they've seen no evidence of coaching. On ID cards, Apple says they've done more than any company to prevent the widespread abuse of migrant workers. Once in, our reporters were overwhelmed by the workload. Shifts have overtime built in, so workers regularly do more than 60 hours a week, more than Apple's guidelines. And so workers rested when they could. This iPhone 6 testing area has virtually no one awake. Apple says they'll examine sleeping during production, but napping on breaks is not unusual.
Apple has been championing itself as a perfect enterprise, but it is all a facade. I don't think they care about the workers at all.
Pegatron, who run the factory, say they are carefully investigating the BBC's claims and will take all necessary actions. Apple say they work with suppliers to prevent excessive overtime and that no other company is doing as much to ensure fair and safe working conditions. What we found were broken promises on the iPhone factory floor. Richard Bilton, BBC News, Shanghai.